What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of How to Copy and Steal. My name is Chris. Doing a not a solo show today. I'm producing solo show today, but today I have a special guest, someone that I've worked with before in the past, someone who I'm low key inspired by in regards to just like he picked up and started a YouTube channel during the pandemic. And you know how people always tell you to like find a niche, find a niche. It's just one of these things where like it seems like a niche found him, and he's been just thriving and literally like paving the way for himself and just kind of like showcasing how it should be done. And his community is fucking rock solid strong, I will say. I am here with Richard from Fan the Deck.
Hey guys, hey everyone. Hey Chris, how's it going?
Doing good, man. I'm doing good. I'm so happy we could find time to catch up and, just talk shop. I've worked with Richard before in the past. I actually helped him rebrand his show. And we did like a whole brand guide and like changed up the thumbnail styles and like built even a new style. And even as we worked together, like the styles and things kind of like evolved and grew. Could you tell my fans a little bit about what Fan the Deck is? Like, if you have
Yes.
an elevator pitch for it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Deck is primarily a Steam Deck channel. So when you talk about going niche, yeah, I dug deep into a niche in terms of Steam Deck, which is a portable PC, a handheld PC, and so it's just a way to play games, PC games, and in a way that in a fashion that hasn't really been a popular thing up until recently. So being able to play them in handheld form and even dock it, so it's really like a Switch but for PC gaming.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Since working with you, I've just seen this like whole scene of like portable PCs just blow up, and
Yeah.
everyone and their mama is making them. To be honest, I haven't seen them in the wild. And I
Mhm.
wonder if like, do you think like people are playing their portable PCs at home? Because like I thought the whole idea was for people to
Right.
like out
Right.
and about, but yeah.
Right. So I can tell you, for first of all, for myself, I play it almost exclusively at home, right? So my kids are on the TV, my wife is on the TV, and that's just been how it is for a while. So the Switch was huge for me because I could still play video games and not have to worry about being on the TV. And the piece now with the Steam Deck, it's just another way of doing that. So I play primarily at home. I don't really take it out with me. I did take a train ride to New York not that long ago. I took a PC handheld with me on that, so that was a lot of fun. But
Did you
to
take
your point,
you have like do you have an army to choose from now that you've been reviewing things?
yeah, yeah. So I was in the middle of reviewing a handheld called the One X Fly,
Okay.
which is a Windows handheld. So that's the one I took with me, and it was perfect because it really gave me the chance to feel the ins and outs of that device and really get a chance to review it properly. So it was fun to do that. But yeah, to your point, I didn't see anyone else on the train with a handheld PC, so
Yeah.
I was the only one.
I feel like I used to I was more common to seeing like when I was back in New York, I was more common to seeing Nintendo Switches. And I think when the
Yeah.
Switch Lite came out, I really saw a lot of those out and about. They also hit that beautiful price point of like I think what 150 $200. So it's just like
Absolutely.
easy yes for people. I ended up
Yep.
doing it and I loved it because it gave me like Game Boy vibes as a kid. Like it was just
Yes.
it was nostalgic as fuck. Like I could like just whip it out, have that same power. And it felt solid. I remember that, like, loving how solid it felt in the hand compared to, like, the rattliness of a regular Nintendo Switch where it's like, if I can, like, I can snap this,
Yeah,
I'm mad enough. Uh, but,
for sure.
you know, um, I love, I would love for you to, like, tell my fans a little more about your story in regard
Mhm,
to like how did you get started on YouTube? Was it like
mhm.
a hobby? Was it just like one video? Like
Yeah.
how did it all take off? Because if I'm not like remembering correctly, I think like you hit some point of like virality in regards to YouTube from a certain video, right?
Sort of, yeah. So I started before the Steam Deck stuff. So I started 3 years before the Steam Deck stuff. So this was back in 2018, where I was just covering indie games, and I would do like a video per week on just what indie games came out during that week. And those videos, I mean, I burned out pretty quickly, right? So I had two young children. I think they were 4 and just a newborn at the time.
Oh,
So it was really rough to keep that up. And I think I made 6 months worth of videos maximum, and I just burned out.
that means 6 months worth. Is that like a video per like week
I
or
wanna say a video per week.
holy crap?
So, yeah, so it was a good run, but it was hard to keep up. I was getting maybe 100 to 200 views,
Mhm,
which, I definitely wanted more, but I also knew that it would take time to grow, and I just didn't feel like I could continue to commit to that with those small children.
mhm,
I did come back, like, in early 2019. I made one video. I was really, really proud of it, but again, I just felt like I couldn't keep doing it.
mhm.
And so when in 2021, when the Steam Deck was about to come out, I aside from the Steam Deck, I just knew I wanted to try again, and I didn't know whether I wanted to try again with indie games or like hardware, computer hardware, or something else entirely. I just didn't know what I wanted to do, and it wasn't until after the Steam Deck was announced, and I just kept thinking about it over and over again, that I was like, I think this is what I should do. I think I should focus on this. I was a fan of other YouTube channels that covered handhelds, not necessarily PC handhelds, but just handhelds in general. And I thought, if I'm a fan of them, then I'm sure that there will be people that'll be a fan of the Steam Deck and just want to hear more about it. And that's just the angle I went with. And it honestly picked up really quickly. So I think the first video was already got higher views out of the gate than anything else I had done prior. But by the time I did like there was this unboxing, so to speak, of a dev kit of a Steam Deck, and no one there were no unboxings of Steam Decks yet because the Steam Deck wasn't even out yet. So just that unboxing of the dev kit went super viral as far as I'm concerned, right? Like it was tens and tens of thousands of views, which is just tremendous.
That's fucking dope. So it's almost like riding the wave of like when new iPhones come out, people will ride like the YouTube like iPhone
Yeah.
wave of just like I'm gonna get these guaranteed views. You get me? Like people are gonna want
Yes.
the product. I I I love that hack. Like I think there's something for everyone to learn from that in regards to like whatever you are passionate about. If something has just been released, like they're doing them like it's almost like Steam Deck did the marketing for you for your own YouTube channel. You get me?
Yeah. Mhm.
And you were just like filling this void of like, hey, people are going to be looking for this. So like why not, create content and then partnering that with like the passion for it and the fact that you've done it before. Can I ask like what was it about that video that like was it the tipping point that just like sent you full down, or was it something else about the video? Like was it like a specific metric or something that you saw that was just like, holy shit, this is feasible, I can do this?
I still wasn't even thinking about it in terms of like, um, can I do this? Right. Like even to this day, I still have a day job.
Hmm.
So I'm not necessarily thinking about this as like a job replacement, even though I would love to be able to do that. Um, but primarily I was just, when I did this, I knew that it would be a grind, so to speak, right? The views help a lot with that grind, right? Like it helps give a reassuring feeling like I'm doing the right thing.
Hmm.
But I knew that I was going to have to commit to doing this, let's say once a week at the very least. And so that was my commitment, whether or not I could find, something interesting to talk about, whether or not I could, certainly it was always interesting to me, but I didn't know, what would be interesting to other folks. So I had to find those angles. I had to find those pieces of coverage that maybe other people weren't talking about.
Hmm.
So really, again, it was just that commitment to doing it.
Yeah. Did you have like were you starting to form a community before that video?
There was, so before even the Steam Deck, I had like a small community. So the channel prior was called Notable Releases,
Okay.
and it started with like a Twitter account, and there were 2,000 followers on Twitter,
Okay.
and we had like a Discord. So there was a small community just around the indie games
Yeah,
that
Discord back then. Oh man, you were like a OG. I
yeah.
just still get I'm still like learning to love Discord because it gives me
Mhm.
very much like Slack PTSD vibes. I'm just like, wor-
Yes. Yes. So I mean, I'll tell you right now, a few months ago I started going just I'm on D&D all the time.
Mhm,
I've muted all the servers except for a few,
mhm.
and even the ones that I have, it's only like if someone mentions me or if something like that. So like I get very few notifications. I'm with you. You get PTSD real quick
Yeah,
and it just distracts you tremendously. So yeah, I had to adjust to that.
yeah. Um, so how like I want to know like how did you like growth hack or like were you doing like growth hacking because like you were like analyzing things you said you were trying to find
Yeah.
like how did that like work its way like what was your process when doing that.
No, that's good. Yeah. So there were different sides of me, right? So like I mentioned, I wanted to commit to it first and do that, but like I definitely noticed that there were things certain people were clicking on, and who helped me a lot with that was my wife, right? Like she would be the viewer, and she was a casual viewer, right? So like she wasn't interested in the Steam Deck, she wasn't interested in video games. So if it caught her attention or she was interested in it or it kept her like attention throughout the video, then that was a good sign, right? And so I would give her sort of the topics, and you and I ended up doing this for some time too, but I would give her some of the topics I was working through, and she would give me some ideas on what the title would be. And it took some learning for me to really figure it out, and to this day I'm still very much observing other YouTube channels, other like just what I end up watching. What do I click on? What do I stay um, for a long time on in a video when I click on it? And I kind of pay attention to that, and that helps me figure out what I want to do. So what I was doing early on was just that, right? Like I was asking my wife, I was working through it. There were some titles that landed really well, and there were some that didn't. And it was the same process with like topics, right? Like what am I going to cover? So I want to give an example where there was a teardown for the Steam Deck, and it was a great teardown that Valve did. Yeah.
I fix it.
No, this was even before the iFixit. So
Okay.
the iFixit, teardown didn't come until the Steam Deck released in February 2022. This teardown was before November 2021, so like October or something like that. And it was just Valve, and Valve was giving a ton of warnings of like, this is how you would do it, but also we don't necessarily recommend that you do it if you're not an expert at this stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, so like that was a topic that I knew was important, right? Something to talk about. But then the following week, I couldn't really think of other new topics. So I kind of just revisited that and looked at it from a different angle, right? And so that was something that it just took a lot of thought to do,
Mhm,
because there was a lot of time, excuse me, there was a lot of time between the time I started my channel and the time the Steam Deck was released.
mhm.
So in a big way, news was sparse. So it was just again, what was interesting to me, right? Because I'm someone that is deep in it,
Yeah.
and I'm someone that is like, I'm looking at the Reddits, I'm looking at the Discords, I'm looking at all the different forums about anything I can find. And so the challenge for me was, if it's interesting to me, I'm sure it'll be interesting to other people, but how do I transform it to make sure that it is interesting to other people, that it's not just for the really deep into it, because they're going to have read it by the time I read it, right?
Mhm.
So how do I make it interesting for the folks that are also, 10,000 feet, 50,000 feet above that?
Can I ask what you did to like how did you approach that teardown differently? Like were you like analyzing? Were you doing a teardown of your own? Like what was that?
So for the first one, it was really just talking through what they talk through, what the warnings are, things like that. But the second analysis I did of the teardown was more like where I thought Valve could have improved on it, because a lot of their messaging, like I said, was like, you should not do this, which is true to an extent, but like the goal of this was to show people that you can repair your own PC. And there are some modifications you can make, some repairs you can do on the Steam Deck that like you should be aware of what the downsides are, but you shouldn't like shy away from it. You should, in my opinion, right? Like you should be open to being able to open your device and repair it if it's simple enough to do so, if you have these instructions to go forward. And so I think Valve did a good job of giving those instructions. And so I felt like they could have not been so heavy with the like warnings and things like that. So I just looked at it from that angle, but really just giving a different perspective, I would say.
Oh, dope. I think, well, from like my perspective, every time I saw like the branding of it, it just felt like such a big device. Like it felt like it
Hmm.
so much space. And what's funny is that like now when I see it compared to other devices, like its profile is very thin. And I felt like they gave no like love to that. It's almost like fan thin. Like it's the
Yeah,
thing that's thick about it are the controllers. And I feel like all the promo shots I saw were like head on. You get me? Or like,
yeah, yeah,
showing the bulbous of the controllers and like it just made it look like this massive old like universal control for your TV or something like
yeah,
that. Um,
yeah,
but I understood like the ergonomics, like they thought about it and it felt comfortable in the hand. It just didn't feel like something that I wanted to put in my book bag to like
yeah.
take with me. Uh,
I I still think it looks that way, right? Like, you're right, it's really slim and stuff like that, but it definitely, like, took function over form the entire way. Like, it's not, in my opinion, it's not, like, luxurious.
mhm,
It's not elegant in terms of just aesthetics, right? But when you hold it, it all sort of melts away. So, and I'm surprised that they have the analog stick, the D-pad, and the trackpad all on one side. And they have the analog stick and the face buttons and the trackpad all on the other side. And I've never seen anything accomplish that and make it all comfortable.
yeah,
And I would say it pretty much did that. Like it's impossible to do it completely, I'd imagine, but I find each of those inputs comfortable to use. So
yeah.
I'm impressed.
I find it interesting that like because technically they're just PCs, right? They're just portable PCs, and I'm wondering like will they have the same impact that like iPads are currently having and like smartphones are having with computing? You get me?
Mm,
Will there be kids that look at this as like, this is my computer? You get me? Like,
right.
will they ever try to? I think there's one of them that looks like a PSP, like the GDP, and it has like the full
Mhm.
keyboard that comes up. Like, will there be like kids that grow up and are just like, I'm just gonna write my essay here? You get me?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Like playing my games and things like that. I'm
Yeah.
interested to get your take on, because like the space has been flooded and like
Yes.
for me like I'm a big believer in copy and steal. There does seem like there's a lot of copying going out there of like, oh, you're gonna use that chip, I'll use that chip too, or you're gonna do that,
Yeah.
I'll add RGBs to it too. uh,
Yes. Exactly.
and it very much seems like Valve has like got something. Say it, I don't know, I'll stop there. I want to
Yeah.
get your take on that.
Yeah. So I have a few different takes. But like also first and foremost, right? Like the future is so like untenable. I have no idea what's gonna happen, but I have thought about it a bunch, right? And so I don't really see it as people are gonna replace their computers with with these gaming handhelds. Um, because I think partially people have just moved away from computers in general, right? There a lot more people are on their phones. And so I'm an elder millennial, right? So like when people there's this meme out there that like when a conversation like a text conversation gets serious, you got to move to your laptop, and I'm one of those people, right? Like I can only do so much on my phone, and then I have to move to my laptop or my desktop if I'm going to have a real conversation. And so I don't see people, younger people moving away from their phones to a gaming handheld. It's a big difference. But what I do see that I think a lot of people would argue is I see PCs taking the place of consoles in the future. So I think what Valve is trying to accomplish with the Steam Deck and with any other hardware that they make in the future is to make it more streamlined for folks that are used to a console experience. So they're trying to take the PC experience and consoleize it, right? So they're trying to make it streamlined, make it easier to install, make it so that that's all you have to do, right? You install it and you play. You don't have to worry about what graphics card you buy, what CPU you buy. You just buy a Steam Deck. And maybe one day there will be a Steam console. You just buy a Steam console. When the Steam Deck 2 comes out, that's the handheld you buy, not the Steam Deck 1. Um, so I think they're looking at it that way. And I think that's going to attract a lot of people that weren't already into PC gaming. And I can see, now just going deep into like gaming specifics, now Xbox exclusives are available on PC. PlayStation exclusives eventually become available on PC. So it's harder and harder to find games that you can't buy on the PC. So it just feels like if ever there's going to be a consolidation, I think that consolidation moves towards PC and not away from it.
I'm all for it. I am all for it. I hate like back on the East Coast. I have like PlayStation friends, and like I've noticed a
Mhm.
lot of like Xbox people, uh,
Yes.
and it's just been I don't know that cross compatible like gaming has always been like a thing for me. Like I've always wanted that to be the case, and I feel like most of the consoles, if I'm not mistake me if I'm no, correct me if I'm mistaken, but I feel like a lot of like cross compatible gaming is left up to the game itself, right? It's not really
Yeah.
Xbox and PlayStation, but like, hey, yeah, let's play together. Like it's all
Yeah.
part.
Yeah. And in fact, they didn't want to do that, right? Like it was Fortnite that basically forced their hands because up until then, I think that I think that it was Xbox that was a little bit more open to doing cross play so that on the Xbox can play against people on the PC, maybe against people on PlayStation if Sony allowed it.
Mhm.
But Sony was against it the whole way. And it was really Fortnite that was like, you either do this or we're taking this game off the platform. And, Fortnite's like billions of users.
Yeah,
So they kind of forced their hand. And now there is crossplay. And that's something I love, right? Like the ability, that freedom to be able to play with your friends, even if they have a different console.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I do see that with PC too.
yeah.
What about
What's
I
that?
had to ask I have to ask you, what about MetaQuest 3? Did you watch the Meta Connect? How did you feel about it? Because
Oh,
I know you were into the
yeah,
Quest 2.
yeah. Um, So I'm not gonna lie, I probably haven't used my Oculus or Meta, I guess, since like maybe
Right.
like in the summertime. And I don't know, I feel like I feel like when it comes to like my opinion on like VR and AR, I feel like AR has to be the one to take off first. Like I feel like as
Yeah.
long as you are enclosing yourself in this solo experience, it's always going to be a solo experience. And I think,
Right.
in order for it to hit the masses, it's going to have to be like something truly game changing. Like even when Apple just came out with their Vision Pro, like there wasn't anything that I saw there that I was just like, whoa, this isn't something that we've seen before. You get me? Like it was
Right.
all just like things that other people have done just with not even the Apple attention to detail. You get me?
Yes.
I heard
Yeah.
the finger tracking is pretty magical, but otherwise than that, I was just like, why would someone want to invest in this? And I think they even know it. That's why they like added that whole Black Mirror like view of the eyes perspective so that you feel like
Mhm.
that person was disconnected, but very much that person is disconnected. Uh,
For sure.
so yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's got to be AR first and AR for everybody, where it's like either a hologram or it's like some sort of like projection mapping onto something where everyone can see and indulge in the experience. Something that I did like, and it wasn't even Apple Vision Pro, and I don't know if you've heard of it. Have you heard of the N Real glasses or the
Mhm.
X Real glasses? Like
Yeah.
those
I
look.
got them.
Oh, you got them,
I've
my
got
guy.
these. Not the X Rails, but I've got these,
Okay,
the
okay.
Beachers. So yeah, they're the same.
So like that is what I see. Like that's augmented reality to me. You know what I mean? Like, and they even did
Mhm.
smaller frame. Like, I was waiting for Apple to like
Right.
hit us with that, and I was kind of let down when they came out with this big behemoth to attach to your face, and I was just like,
Mhm.
"Whoa!" This felt very un-Apple like. It felt like they, beautified a prototype and like
Yeah.
weren't ready for it, and I don't know. Like I'm hoping that it's just a play to get devs on board, and that we'll see their Nreal or Xreal equivalent coming.
Right.
Because it's just
Right.
like, especially if you're going to be putting USB-C in iPhones now, which shame on them for not putting Thunderbolt in their iPhone Pros at least. Like, come on, guys, they put USB-C and
Yeah.
didn't put Thunderbolt, and I'm just like, come on, like we're here already. uh,
Correct.
I can definitely see that being like the future of the Apple Vision Pro, where it's like some sort of lighter weight and real experience on your face, tethered to your phone and using your phone as like the meat and potatoes for it. Uh,
Right, right. That would be cool.
yeah. Um, but yeah, no, as we get into like, I still want to get an Xbox soon, just because I have friends over here. I I think I saw rumors and news recently, and I don't know if it was that Apple, that Xbox was considering buying Valve or buying Steam Deck.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
okay,
So,
is that green light?
what's that?
Is that a green light? Is that happening?
No, these are like leaked internal documents,
Okay.
and there, this was certainly a thing that was in a leaked internal document, right? Like that was real, but it's also Microsoft, right? And so Microsoft has aspirations to buy any and everyone. So, like in addition to Valve, Nintendo was on the list too. They would love to buy Nintendo,
Hmm.
but it's not, it's at least not at this time. It's not realistic, right? Like it's not realistic to buy Nintendo in 2023. And right now it's not realistic for them to buy Valve either. Valve is like privately held and they're making billions of dollars. They don't really have a reason to sell. They're not like other tech companies where the other tech companies are looking to acquire users and not really worrying about profitability. Valve is extremely profitable and, they don't have a reason to sell right now. But Microsoft would love it, right? So Microsoft would love to buy either of those companies, and it would definitely bolster their portfolio for sure.
Yeah. Question: what does the future of gaming look like to you? Because like, as I like, it seems like they're all, and I mean, so you can even point at the example of like iPhones versus Android. Like when they first started off, they were distinctly different. But
Yeah,
now you can hand a Pixel and an iPhone to someone, and they'll be like, it's pretty much the same thing. They have home
yeah,
screens, search bars. Everything is all focused to the lower half of the screen, for ergonomics. Everything is clean aesthetically. There's no more skeuomorphic design. Like
hmm,
we're pretty much, they're the same thing, just different.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I wonder like, where do you see the future of gaming going? Because we were talking about like, like with that cross compatibility of gaming, like with things happening like that, like it seems like all that's left for these manufacturers to do is like focus on what people consider the gimmicks, like motion controls, and like I
right.
feel like Nintendo does that better than anyone else. Like they're really good at, well, it's 50-50. Like Wii U
Mhm.
went down. The original
That's what they.
was great. When the Switch
Yes.
came out, everyone was like, eh, but then the Joy Cons were like, holy shit, this is like super powerful. Um,
Yep.
do you see things going more in that direction, or do you have like a completely different view on the future of gaming?
Yeah. I think so. I think there's, in terms of horsepower, right? Like that's even just one area to look at things. And there's two different schools of thought, right? So there's the one school of thought that we're seeing a lot of diminishing returns in terms of horsepower. And so, like, PS2, what's that?
Go into what do you mean by horsepower? Like just to, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, better looking graphics, right? Like, the amount of compute that goes into making better looking games, and so there are a lot of folks that think we're seeing diminishing returns. We went from PS2 to PS3, and then the jump from PS3 to PS4 was less than that, and
I
the
agree.
jump from PS.
I
Yeah,
agree.
right? Yeah, and so I also agree, but there's also an element of the PS4 to PS5 jump that some of it has been held back up till now, right? Because we went through the pandemic and through that time, supply chain was so constrained that folks couldn't upgrade their consoles. They couldn't go from a PS4 to a PS5. They couldn't go from an Xbox One to the Xbox Series. And so, because of that, game development starts 5 or 6 years for big games before that game is released. So the games that we're seeing now started development 5 years ago, at least. So basically, there was time where the game development was constrained by people still being on older hardware. So if you want to look at where kind of graphics are going to go in the next few years, I would look at that Matrix demo. If you've seen that, there's a Matrix Unreal Engine 5 demo. Yeah. So it has like Neo but like it looks really gorgeous. It's in that. Does the city have a name in the Matrix?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah. But anyway, it's the Matrix, right? And it looks gorgeous. And that engine is Unreal Engine 5, which only a couple of games are using Unreal Engine 5 right now. And more games are going to use that. So that's one way it's going to, I think, improve. But I think the other thing that, so maybe this is where some fragmentation occurs, right? Because what I think also is happening is a lot of folks just they like even if it's not diminishing returns, a lot of folks aren't necessarily going to appreciate all these additional details, right? So like now it's about reflections and ray tracing and stuff like that, which it looks, if you turn it on, it looks better than it did before. There's no doubt about it.
Mhm.
But I feel like there are definitely folks that aren't appreciating that as much, and so what they may prefer is something less expensive, especially right now with all the inflation. So maybe they prefer that. Maybe they prefer something smaller. So I think the other place we're going to see
Appealing to
with
me.
that.
That Series S is looking mighty appealing to me.
Exactly, right? Like the Series S, I think is a big deal, and I think that Xbox would have a lot of trouble right now if they didn't have that Series S. That was a big feature for them to have something that was $300, right, compared to the PlayStation 5 or the Series X. So that's the other way to go, somewhere smaller, somewhere a little more affordable. I think that's the Steam Deck, that's the Switch 2, that's the Series S. Xbox could theoretically take the Series S and make it into a handheld if they wanted to. They don't seem very invested in that right now, but they could do that theoretically. So I do see that coming where there's more and more of these handhelds, not just in terms of PC, but in terms of the consoles and just these other experiences. So I think those are the two places we're going to see is just more investment into these bigger graphics, better graphics, and more investment into just making everything smaller. How small can we get it?
Yeah. No, that's wow, we're living in like amazing times right now. Like I could have swore I I think Apple just released with the new iPhone that like they're able to run like full console games now. And I wonder
Yeah.
if that's just for the pros only because they have those like new 3 nanometer chips and things like that.
Yeah.
Um Interested to like see like when do you think games are gonna hit that point of like, blurring the lines between a game and reality? Like I
Mhm.
remember when Beowulf first came out, the movie Beowulf, and we were like, holy shit, like this and now when you look back at that, it just looks like a cutscene. But like, do you think we are at that moment? Because like I think it was interesting that you spoke about like how games are being forced to, you know, they're being forced to like create under like circumstances of like not only does it have to work on like the best console, but it has to work on like this low powered thing too. And I think like Mortal Kombat 1, the new Mortal Kombat that just came out, like
Yeah.
I was looking at side by side views of it on Xbox versus it on Switch. And I was like, holy shit, like I feel so much pain for that person who had to do that job. Like who had to
Yeah.
sit there and dumb this stuff down and
Yeah.
keep it still somewhat cool looking. And it was just like, damn, this is wild. It's crazy that
Yeah.
they have to do this and like to create with those restrictions. You get me? Where something has
For
to
sure.
scale, like this texture has to like look good at like 300 DPI, but it also has to look good at 10 DPI. You get me? Like it has to look good 8-bit. Like
Yes. Yeah, and, like, that was a weird one, right? Even before the Mortal Kombat 1, port on the Switch was released, it was announced, and people were like, "How is this even gonna be possible?" And then coming to find out, it looks like that, right? Like, it looks so much different
yeah,
than the PS5 version or the Xbox version. Um, so, I mean, like, the Switch right now, there's no question that it's underpowered. Um, we're going on 7 years now
yeah,
since the release of the Switch, and all signs point to the fact that a Switch 2 is going to be announced in early next year and released by late next year. So hopefully we'll see a lot less of that, and I think the Switch 2 will be a lot closer to what we have now. It's not going to match the PS5, it's not going to match the Xbox Series X, but it may match something like the Series S or an Xbox One Pro or something like that. So we'll see a lot less of that, but what the future of that is, I think there's a chance that yeah, we get to sort of realistic graphics or something that is unmistakable from reality, right? But like we've definitely had times before where we got the PS3 and I was like, oh yeah, this looks like real life. So I'm sure we'll have more of that, right? But do we get to unmistakable from reality? I think what a lot of the like graphics companies are focusing on right now is taking something that's like small resolution, like 1080p, and then making that 4K, right? 8K even
yeah.
with DLSS, which is just a way to upscale that and make it look realistic. And they use machine learning, so like AI technology, to take that 1080 and make it 4K and look like it's 4K for real.
Okay.
So the theory is that that's going to be in the Switch 2 as well, that sort of technology.
Mhm.
So I do think that sort of thing helps. If nothing else, it really helps have games that are, again, that resolution, that super resolution, and have them run better. So 60 FPS, or if you have one of those, 144 hertz TVs, it'll run at that frame rate too, most likely. So I think that's where we'll see. I don't know if we're got to like unmistakable from reality, but yeah, who knows?
Yeah. Like I oftentimes ask myself like when games are unmistakable from reality, will we ever like ask ourselves the questions of like, well, do we need to have football players now? Do we need to have
Right,
you get me?
right.
What happened? Do people start taking like gaming way more seriously? Like I just saw I don't know if you've seen the Gran Turismo movie. Uh,
Mm,
I kind of liked it. I really thought it was dope. It blew my mind to see that it was based on a true story, and it's just like, bro, Gran Turismo's been doing their thing for a while, and it's simulation. Like it is real simulation. Um, I don't know. What are your thoughts there in regards to like, how the impact of gaming will kind of change the world, if any?
yeah. Um, So I don't know. I think that like gaming is already like everywhere, right? So, you and I grew up in a time where it was very much like there were pockets of people that played video games. But now I think everyone has played a video game and from time to time will play a video game, right? Like whether it's Candy Crush, Animal Crossing, or Call of Duty. Everyone has played one. And it's just a level, it's like reading a book, right? Do you find someone that reads one book a year or 30 books a year? And it's very much like that. But I think we do see a lot of that technology come into other places. So we've seen like the Meta Quest, right, lead to sort of professional VR headsets. And I think those professional VR headsets haven't really taken off, at least not yet,
Yeah.
but they're trying, right? And we see a lot of those progressions. Um, and I think about I worked at a jewelry company not that long ago, and we were working on an augmented reality. This was not using VR. It was just using like a Connect camera, like a webcam that I have now.
Wait, by
And
the K Connect, the Microsoft Connect?
yeah, it was the
Oh,
Microsoft
it-
Connect. It
it-
was that.
I
Yep.
loved that thing when it came out originally. I mean, I was waving all around the house trying. Can you see me now? But yeah,
Yes, exactly that. Yep. So we were using one of those to try to get like a virtual try on, right? Like a virtual mirror. So you could see earrings on you.
Mhm.
And it was tough because like, to get jewelry to look realistic and to have the physics and things like that. But this was all being built using a game engine called Unity.
Okay.
And so, anything you see 3D and like CGI, like a lot of that stuff is going to be built in the same tools that game developers are using too. So, yeah, I think it's already sort of widespread. And we're just going to see more of that. Maybe even with cloud gaming, maybe it becomes more accessible that way. So you don't have to buy a console, you just play on your phone or something like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think there's a lot more to see, but I think it's only going to continue to grow.
Wow, that's trippy. Like it sent me on like as you were talking there, it sent me on like a path of just like, you know, like you're right. Like these game engines are like they're becoming more advanced, and as these tools become more advanced, as they add more like real physics into them, like their applications can be used across more than just gaming. You get me?
Hmm.
Be used in architecture and like, simulating earthquakes or you give me anything.
Hmm. For sure.
That's so trippy to think that like you may see yourself going to school to be like a game designer now, but like in the future, like the job that requires you to know Unreal Engine won't be for designing a game. You get me? It'll be
Absolutely.
for like designing a new building in Dubai or something. uh,
Absolutely. Yeah, it's true.
insane. It's crazy. Like it runs into like theories of just like, are we living in a simulation? As we like, but, like, I think I'm low key. I'm really terrified about people putting AI into gaming, uh,
Mhm.
and specifically like NPC characters. Uh,
Mhm.
it something about it just like it seems like it's like setting people up for some serious PTSD in terms of like, oh my god, I didn't mean to kill you. Like, I'm so sorry.
Right,
Like,
right.
we always want to like hit the NPC or like see what happens, but it's just like, what happens when the NPC remembers what you did that last game?
Mhm.
And
Yeah, you run into, like, philosophical, like, ethical issues now.
yeah, like,
I can
are
see
you
that.
okay with your kid? Like, I wonder, will there be a switch for people to opt in or like, you know what? I'm cool with these dumb like decision tree NPCs. You get me? Like, give me the
Yeah.
dumbed down version of that.
Yeah.
Interested
Yeah,
thoughts there.
I haven't even thought about it, like, from an ethical perspective, but I'm definitely someone that, like, teeters the line between like I'm really into the technology and then sometimes I'm just like a luddite, right? Like when it comes to Steam Deck, I'm into the tech because it's something that just I use, right? But when it comes to something like AI, like I think it's fascinating. It's amazing what it can do, but I'm also scared of, I saw the you may have seen the picture, like it's a meme of like a dude side kicking a gator. Have you seen that? Like here
Yes, yeah. Why did I see that recently? Yeah, I did.
I don't I I thought it was real, like, I didn't even question it, and I'm someone that would question these things, right? Like, I've seen AI images and I've questioned them. This was the first one that I saw, and I was like I didn't even think about it. I was just like, "What happened? Why is he side kicking a gator?" And, it's AI. And so, like, just more of that is gonna happen, the deep fakes and stuff like that, and we are in no way trying to regulate that or figure that out. And so that's the stuff that scares me. And similar like with VR, like it does feel like, if we are not already in a simulation, it seems like there are going to be a lot of us that just voluntarily sign up to be in a simulation. And like it's going to be more fun to be in the VR world than to be in the real world. And there was a video I saw recently of like people are already, when you think about it, people are already valuing what happens in the online world. Let's not call it like VR, but like the online world more than what's happening in real life. And the example of that is like you used to be embarrassed, and this is not like a value judgment, right? Like this one
Yeah,
is just whatever, but you used to be embarrassed to like take funny videos on a train in New York, and now you're not embarrassed because the trade-off is you get like these you get engagement online, and that is more beneficial to you than the harm done by the embarrassment or whatever whoever is laughing at you on the train. So it's flipped now, and so the value is now in a little bit more in what's happening in the online world than what's happening in the real world. And does that continue? What does that look like? And some of it, some of it may be great, but then some of it is just like stuff that worries me. So that's where where I stand on that.
no, that's wow. Like I haven't really thought about that. Can I ask, when it comes to like you and your children, like, do you require them to be nice to Alexa or any assistants that you have?
So I actually don't have any assistants. So I think that answers that question, right? Because like even that, like yeah, it just feels like will they become reliant on it? And it's not something I've given a lot of thought to. It's just something that like I didn't even I didn't even go that far. I just figured we don't need it. Like we can find the weather out on our own. And
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah. No, that's I it's things that I'm thinking about now as like I have my first child on the way, like, when to introduce the iPad, when to, because the reason why I kind of fell out from gaming was when things got too complicated. When I was just like, holy shit, like I'm basically living my life in this game. I gotta feed this character. I gotta work out with this character. Like shit, like I'd rather get these achievements in real life. Like
For real.
I need to focus on focusing on the real world, and like that's where I really started to lose my misconnect from gaming, and it went from being an outlet to like being a second life. And I started to be like, all right, I need to focus on my life. But I don't know. It's interesting times. Like I gonna be asking ourselves some very interesting questions as this starts to take off. And like I don't know. Like I'm really scared about like them wanting to incorporate AI into gaming, especially when it comes to like open world games like Grand Theft Auto. You get me?
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
I don't know how I ethically feel about that. You get me? Like it starts to
Yeah.
like that movie that we saw. What is it? The one with Ryan Reynolds. real fake.
Oh,
I don't know.
I thought you were gonna say iRobot. I don't remember the one with Ryan Reynolds.
He just did
Yeah.
one recently, and like it was basically where he's like an NPC character that becomes sentient. Um,
Okay,
and
gotcha. Yeah.
like he starts to interact with like other gamers in the game, and he finds out that he can do whatever he wants. And he starts
Right.
like beating up the other characters, and he just wants to like live a normal life. And I think they wind up like at the end of the movie. Oh, my bad, I'm over here spoiling it for you.
No, you're good. You're good for me. I don't know about your audience, but
uh,
I'm good.
I think at the end of the movie, they wind up becoming like a more like not utopian society, but like it's almost like a Sims esque like type of
Right.
game rather than like Fortnite mixed with Grand Theft Auto type of deal where people fly
Right.
in and just mess things up
Right.
because they're aware that these things have some sort of sentience. Um,
What's
when it comes-
interesting,
yeah,
I think back to the example you gave of like, someone an NPC remembering something you did.
that would
That's actually
fuck me up.
what's that?
That would fuck me up if that happened to me.
So so listen, there's a game that does that, and apparently they patented it so nobody else can do it. So it's a Shadow of War. It's one of those Middle Earth games like Lord of the Rings, stuff like that. But Shadow of War, I think, is the name of the game. And so you can like kill like commander or something like that, and they come back with like a memory of what you did to them. So they're called Nemesis, and they have a Nemesis system where they recollect and they'll harbor that grudge for the rest of the game.
Jesus, then they start connecting to the web. They start getting other up your ass as soon as you didn't even get to make it into the game. They just start popping in on your UI.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
It's in-
So it's messed up.
uh, um, so I wanna take a little not a step back or like a sidestep, but I do want to talk about like, is there anything that you've done in your career that has led to or overlapped with success in YouTube right now? Are there any things that you take from what you do in the real world? And I don't know if you're comfortable like saying what you do full time.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
is there anything that overlaps?
yeah. There is, it's gonna be tough to think of it now, but, like, I'm a software developer, so, when it came to, like, just thinking more literally, right? When it came to notable releases, the Twitter account that I had prior to doing Fan the Deck, I built, like, software development tools to help me do stuff. So, like, with Twitter specifically, I was tweeting out a daily list of games that came out, and, we would evaluate these games in, like, a Google Sheet, and then I would run the tool that I wrote to take what's in the Google Sheet and publish it on Twitter. So that's like a literal, like, I used my software development skills to build tools to help me, right? Um, but I think really it's more so what is finding your motivation and finding like your what is going to be the thing that keeps you pushing through the challenging times, because being a creator is a lot of work, right? It can be rewarding, and it is, but there's also just so much work, and most of the time the work that you do, you don't really get like a tangible benefit from it. You get like good feelings, you get good engagement, that sort of thing, but most of the time you're not getting like your lifestyle improving or something like that. It's just you're doing it because you want to do it. And so what I think over the course of my career, I've just built up those internal reasons and internal motivations and taken that and applied that to making content.
Dope, dope. Yeah, I that resonates a lot with me because like I'm still very much like I'm starting this journey. I've been making content for others for a while, and it's just like coming to terms with understanding like, hey, I need to create content for myself if
Mm,
I'm trying to create content for others. Like I have to have a show of my own. Um,
right.
I think lately what I've been struggling with is just trying to find the cadence and trying to understand like what I need to be doing versus what I want to be doing.
Right.
And I feel like, and I've often heard like people, especially YouTubers, they go through that growth period where it's just like and it's not even, I don't know if it's growth. It's just like a period where like they find themselves focusing on more of like what they feel like they need to create. And then they'll
Yeah.
like take like a big like hiatus and they'll come back and be like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm making what I want to make. Can I
Yeah.
ask you like, of the content that you create, are you still in that zone of like what you want to create and it just so happens to overlap with what your viewers want? Or have you found yourself kind of dipping more into like the growth hacking and like trying to figure out what people need or what people want to see from you?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a great question, and I can be capricious sometimes with some of that stuff. Like, I will dive deep into one way and then go another way. So, like, let me think about how to answer that. So, for example, right, like, the bread and butter of my channel are like weekly news videos about the Steam Deck. If they're not weekly news videos about the Steam Deck, people are going to be less likely to click. And that's not even just like growth hack. It's like that's what people came to the channel for. They came for news videos about Steam Deck. And so if I don't make that video, they don't click. And lately, I've been making more and more videos that are not like that, but I know that I have to keep up some sort of cadence of that for YouTube to be happy. Thankfully, yeah, the content creator like motto, right, is to take that concentric circle of, or that Venn diagram of, the things you enjoy making and the things people enjoy watching from you, or the things that people enjoy consuming. And so thankfully, yeah, I do those Steam Deck news videos are things that I do enjoy making. But the difficulty is that I also enjoy making other things. So lately, yeah, lately the way I've taken it is, if I make, and there's this feeling both internally for me, but I think just from most folks that do YouTube, that YouTube sort of operates on this like 7-day cycle. And so if I can make one Steam Deck news video per week, anything I do on top of that is just bonus for me, and hopefully bonus for my audience too. So recently I did a video about why, this sounds like it's Steam Deck related, but it's not. Why Valve is so popular and Epic is so unpopular. Epic is like a competitor to Valve. And I dove really deep into that. It's like a 20-minute long video essay. And people did not click that video. The people that did click it enjoyed it. They watched it more than any other video I've made, but people just didn't want to watch that. Uh, but I made it for myself. And so for the people that did enjoy it, that's great. But mostly I made it for myself, and I'll continue to make a weekly Steam Deck video approximately, right? Like if I need a break, I need a break. But if I make that approximately, anything on top of that is just a bonus.
Dope. Dope stuff. Nah, I think that was well said. I completely understand that. And honestly, that sounds like, the point where everyone wants to be, where like you can still do things for yourself, but still, know that you have a fan base that are there for one consistent thing and you can deliver on that. You can deliver on that experience for them. Can I ask, like, what is your like best advice for someone wanting to start YouTube right now? And this is just like our generic, like,
Mhm. Yeah. Um, I have a few, but the first one is to figure out a schedule that you can do and do that, right? And part of that is going to be stopping at good enough. And what's the, perfect is the enemy of good, right?
yeah, it's like better done than perfect or something. Like, yeah, I
Yes. Yes, exactly. So, like, for example, I'll give you a concrete example, right? Like yesterday, this weekend, I had to make a Steam Deck news video. It's not out yet; it should be out today. But I had to make a Steam Deck news video because, like I said, I want to make one every week, and the weekend is the time that I have to do it. So, I wanted it to be around 20 minutes long. I had enough content to justify that length, so I started working on the script. And that primarily I work off of a script. So, but lately I've also been doing some more off script stuff. So just me talking, that sort of thing. But I started working on the script. I got about halfway through. It is like 7 p.m. Last night, and I wanted to go to bed at a reasonable time. So I read through the script, and then I just took the outline for the rest of the half that I had, and I riffed off of that. And it was good enough, right? Like I would have preferred to do the script for the whole thing, but it was good enough to just riff off of what I had. And I'm working with an editor, so I sent it off to an editor, thankfully. But you got to stop at good enough sometimes just to get the content out there. It's not always going to be perfect, but it's better to get into a rhythm. So that's the biggest piece of advice, is to just get into a rhythm. It doesn't have to be weekly. I do think that YouTube kind of operates on that 7-day basis, but it doesn't have to be weekly. Just find a cadence that works for you and do that, whether it's good or bad, because it's going to get better each time you do it.
Yeah. No, that is so dope. I love when I heard that you got an editor because it was just like now you have that freedom to like I don't know. I feel like that maybe unlocks you and it allows you to like think about more of those things that you want to do for yourself that you may be able to find like some overlap in line with why your audience is there. Can I ask like was it hard to find an editor? Was it like a quick like Fiverr situation or did you know them? Because like I know a lot of people oftentimes find it hard to find someone that thinks like they do. You get me? And kind of edits like they do and can even push the bounds. I think I saw the other day on one of your videos, like you even like continued to use like the patterns and aesthetics that I gave you and like you got them to animate on the background of like a side like I think it was like a data sheet or
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
thick. I loved it. It looked so
Yes.
good. Uh,
Oh, that's awesome.
so yeah, just like questions like around that for others, because like some people may look at the outside in and be like, "Oh, well, of course you're like your channel's big now. You got an editor." You get me? Like this guy didn't start with an editor. Like he's been
Yeah.
just this is
You know that.
a ad. Yeah, this is a recent ad. So I just want to
Yep.
understand like maybe talk about like what your process was there. Like was it an easy thing to find? Like could someone like would you even suggest someone start a channel like that and like find an editor to start a channel, or would you be like, nah, you need to define your own videos first?
I do think there's a lot of define your own videos, like, just to speak on that part some more, right? Like you and I have talked about a second channel, well, like what I would do for a second channel. I did launch a second channel and I did 3 videos and I'm like, should I do this? And like I mentioned earlier, I can be kind of capricious. So like after I did it and then I tried it again on the main channel, I was like, I don't know if this is the right way. And YouTube is a black box, so you just never know which is the right way to go. But so that part is hard, right? But like the part of the editor, me finding him, it was sort of easy. It took a long time to get there. It took a long time for me to be ready for that. That's the other part of like, no, I don't think you should start with an editor. I think you need those reps, not necessarily in editing, but I was a big proponent of like not overspending, right? Like making sure that what I could do was sustainable, like just with my own energy, right? Like I didn't want to burn out. I wanted to do the same with like finances, right? I wanted to make sure that it was sustainable to keep doing what I'm doing. So if I'm going to take on an editor, I wouldn't want to take on an editor and then 6 months later I can't use that editor anymore. So I wanted to make sure it was sustainable. The way it worked out, was ended up feeling very lucky. So there were editors that reached out to me over email, just seeing my videos. I imagine that there are like triggers, right? Like once people start getting 100,000 views, 50,000 views, whatever like that, they start getting emails. So I did get some emails from folks, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll start thinking about this. What does an editor situation look like? Because it also wasn't part of my workflow at the time. So I started having those conversations. And I was like, if I'm going to give this money to this person, you mentioned it, right? Like, does this person think like me? If I'm going to give this money to this person that like I don't know what their work is really like, and I don't want to be one of those people that like takes you on a trial basis and we work for free. Like if we're doing this right, like I should be paying you.
Yeah.
Um, so I wanted to make sure that we had that, but also I wasn't sure of the work quality. So what I did was I took that amount that they were like offering to charge me, and I found someone that I've worked with in the past, not in terms of editing my videos, but the Steam Deck community of YouTubers has kind of become pretty close. So like we talk a lot in a Discord. Some of there's always like these conversations that are happening. And one of them is we started a channel together called Steam Pals. And it's just like
That's dope.
all of us,
Was
right? What's
the
that?
was that the podcast that I saw you on the other day with like the other Steam Deck YouTube channels or no?
No, that's a whole other one.
Oh
So
shit. Dope
so
shit.
these 2 collaborations just came out of this Discord, right? So one of them that you're talking about is called Nerd Nest, and it's like 4 to 5 of us that are really into Steam Deck, are really into handhelds, and more importantly, just into games and tech.
Mhm.
So this podcast just ends up being games and tech, and it's a weekly podcast. But this other channel called Steam Pals is not a conversation with each other because most of us just don't have the time for that.
Mm,
What we'll do is we'll pick a topic about monthly. So most recently is like, what are you playing on your Steam Deck?
mm.
And so we each just record and edit our own portion. And one of the guys, his name, his like handle is High Tech Low Life. He'll take all of them and just compile it into one video.
Oh,
And so I'm like, this is great because like he knows the basics. First of all, he knows Steam Deck, he knows my audience, that sort of thing. But also because of my news videos, like one of the things I'm looking for is like a fast turnaround. I'm not looking for like a great editing job.
yeah.
Like yeah, I'm not looking for Linus Tech Tips just to cut every few minutes, every few moments, things like that.
B-roll
Uh,
and things. You're not looking.
right. Exactly. So like the first and foremost is like this news is like prescient, right? Like we got to get it out the next day or the next 2 days. So like, how can we do that? And then we can work from there. And so, High Tech Low Life has been really helping me out in that regard. And going back to what you said, I wouldn't be able to do those extra videos that I want to do for myself if it weren't for having that editor. So yeah, this has unlocked something, and sometimes it doesn't hit like I mentioned before, but it's just I feel like I enjoy doing it more when I'm able to do that, and I'm able to do the videos that other people enjoy watching.
Yeah. No, that's dope. Like I love to hear that. Like that story. Just like the fact that like you were able to pivot off of someone else's price and like find someone who does think like you. And it just
Yeah.
happens to be. Does he have a channel of his own? My bad. I don't know if I missed that. So he has his own.
Yes, yes. So in addition to that, he has a channel of his own. It's
Like
at High
saving
Tech
the good
Low
stuff
Life.
for himself, or no? I'm just kidding.
Say what?
Like he's saving the good stuff for himself. Just
No, I don't think so. I think he's very generous. Yeah, that was the other thing. He makes like, or at least at the time, he was making like 2, 3 videos a week. So he was
shit.
uploading
Nah,
constantly.
he's got the muscles built to just like find that
He's
bro, plop it in there, and just put talking
That's it.
points. And when you think of like things like systems and stuff, and like you always have your tags and stuff, it makes it really easy to just like scale up. Oh, that's
Right, right.
that is dope.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to take too much more of your time. I just wanted to hand the floor over to you. And one, I wanted to say thank you for coming on. I felt like we got to touch on some pretty dope points in this conversation, but I wanted to give you the floor to talk about anything you're working on, anything you have coming up, um, anything related to the channel, related to yourself, personal. I'm going to put the camera on you. I'm going to trigger your lower thirds right now,
Nice.
and then I'll also
Lovely lower
go
thirds.
the channel as well. Please,
Yeah.
everyone, if you want to go check out the channel, it's Fan the Deck. You can screenshot this QR code and like tap on it in your Photos app, and it'll take you to it. But yeah, anything you're working on.
Honestly, it's the same stuff, right? Like it's Steam Deck news videos. So yeah, I'm at Fan the Deck on YouTube, and I'm always trying, like I said, new things. So mostly I'm doing the Steam Deck news videos on a weekly basis, but I'll do these video essays, I'll do hardware reviews, things like that. So definitely check that out if that's interesting to you. But on the flip side, I'm gonna throw it back to you, right? Like on the flip side, if you're here for me, and just any of this stuff interests you, the YouTube content creation or just any sort of like creative endeavor, definitely subscribe to this channel, Copy and Steal, and watch these interviews. I've seen a few now, and there's always a little tidbit in there, for something to take away and some sort of inspiration. So I love what you're doing.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I mean, I'm over here doing it for other people, and I still haven't created my own like and subscribe stuff for myself. I spend time and just go live. And that's what I was talking about before. I'm just like struggling in terms of like finding a cadence. Like I created a separate channel to go live and like do things for the business called the live studio. But now I'm thinking about just bringing it back to all just copy and steal and just like doing it from here.
Yeah.
Which leads me to my whole spiel that I forgot to do. If you're interested in starting a show like this yourself, either remotely or in person, you can go to bookalivestudio.com and you can book a discovery call and we can figure out how to build a show around your goals, whether that's business goals, personal goals, even if you want to, rebrand your YouTube channel, I'm your guy. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Pleasure of working with Rich for Fan the Deck. And I was really happy with everything that we created and just the
Me too.
system that like allows him to kind of grow and move forward with. And I feel like we found that balance of like something that was clean but still represented you and everything that you wanted to represent. And I can't wait to, hopefully work together sometime when if you have like a project, like I would love to, put our heads together and figure out like, how can I help you with these videos that are more of what you want to do? You get me?
Yeah.
Whether
Yeah.
it be like helping you out with a B-roll perspective, like I'm happy to see that you're using the ZV-1, but then like let's get that backdrop going. Let's put some
Yes. Yeah, right?
let's get a glowing fan the deck logo on here.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, we have, I mentioned to you personally, but, like, just for the audience, like, this is a house I moved into during the pandemic.
Mhm,
So, like, we never really got to make it our own. And then, there's just expenses, right? Like, or not even expenses, just time. Kids
mhm.
going to school, kids go to camp, that sort of thing. So we never really made time to make this house our own. So that's something we're hopefully investing in the next year or so. So, making, like you said, a nice backdrop or something like that, like, that's
You
definitely
know,
something I want to.
I will put together an equipment list for you. We could figure it out. Also, I mean, push my equipment list. If
Yes.
you're interested in any of the things that I'm using here to produce my show, we do use Ecamm exclusively. But in terms of hardware, we created a free Ecamm equipment list. You can download it there. Again, screenshot the QR code. It comes partnered with a video where I literally walk people through different pricing options, why I use certain things for certain reasons. So yeah, if you're interested, just scroll back and click that. But yeah, man, it was great having you on. Thank you so much. It was dope to catch up. I
Thank you. Yeah.
thrive. I love to see your videos pop up in my feed and, understand that I had just a small part in your story of success. And like, I think shit, since we've started working together, you've grown your channel from what, 30,000 to now you're approaching over like 75 ish. Am I correct? No?
Yeah, very on the eve of 75. So 75 is coming soon for
You doing
sure, and
anything?
yeah, you were what's that?
Are you doing anything big for the first 100K?
Um, I need to, right? Like, it's something I haven't thought about. I've been trying to keep it out of my brain and
Yeah,
just wait till it comes, but I guess I should do something. So maybe that's something you and I can talk about is like,
let's figure it.
what should I do? Yeah.
Dope, man.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. For everyone else out there, thank you for watching this episode of How to Copy and Steal. I'm going to put it back here so we can both say bye. And yeah, I will catch you all in the next episode. Peace.
See ya. Peace.